Hello everybody. My name is Bonesaw. Um, this is a video I actually recorded before, but I'm redoing it because I did it in another editing or like another recording software. It was kind of like, whatever. I just couldn't get it to YouTube, but I'm trying OBS. But anyway, this is a little idea or sort of theory, not really theory, but thing I came up with on how Avengers Doomsday will play out. So I made it kind of like a presentation that's mimicking a certain YouTuber. Ha ha ha. But yeah, I think I put a bit of thought into this. I just thought it was cool, so I wanted to make it. But anyway, um, Avengers Doomsday, a presentation by me. So this is sort of laying down the framework for what I think is going to happen in the movie. Um, but basically, I'm going to run over some stuff that I don't think is going to happen or runs in like conflict with what is being pushed on the internet. So first thing is leaks. Um, that whole Chris Claremont panel sort of deal. I don't think that really means anything. Um, he he said like certain characters would be in the movie and stuff. I think that that's true, but he was saying a bunch of like parts of the movie or something, like things were gonna happen. And it's like, yeah, I don't know about that. It's nothing against him. It's just like, yeah, I don't know. It chances are probably not true. Probably just wait for the movie to come out ultimately. But next thing is casting rumors. Anything that's just being tossed on. We'll get into like specific casting stuff in a little bit, but anything that's just being like thrown out there, like, oh, that's kind of all subject to not really be believable in my opinion. Uh, like, oh, I hate to get in the weeds of things, but like there's just a lot of people that are just saying like, "Oh, this person's gonna be in the movie. This person's gonna be in the movie." Well, it would be cool. Like it might not just really. I don't know. It just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense for some of that. But anyway, we'll get into that later. And then the internet. These are a list of things that are just coming out. I just put an image of Twitter here, but so anchor beings. There was like this whole thing that's like the subspaceship thing there. They did mention them in Deadpool and Wolverine that anchor beings were responsible for keeping universes like tethered. Like without an anchor being, like the entire universe would just fade away and die out. I don't think that that's really gonna play into this movie. I think that that's just really. I think that I don't know. I think that like should be tossed out. That's kind of to say the entire universe is centered around one character is kind of like, oh well, yeah, all these other characters don't really matter. It kind of stinks. I don't know. That's just me. The subspaceship, there was like this whole plot thing that had to do with Kang destroying the Marvel universe and then surviving characters being stuck in like a life raft or something. It was like the two Sony Spider-Man, Tom Holland Spider-Man, like some of the Fox X-Men or something. It was like, ugh, that's just like that sounds like some weird subspace emissary type stuff from Super Smash Brothers Brawl. It's like, Spider-Man, anything about Spider-Man that has to do with Doomsday, just I don't believe it. I really don't believe it. We'll get into more of that. Don't worry, I'll get to a point where I stop saying that. Again, casting rumors, plot leaks. So Doom being a Tony variant, I don't think that that's true at all. They showed the Victor Von Doom chair thing. There's people that are saying like, "Oh, he's gonna show his face, and it's gonna like be a real big moment for like Tom Holland to go like, oh my god, but that's supposed to be Tony. That's like supposed to be my dad." And it's like, okay, like maybe it's a cool reveal for like 2 seconds, but if you really think about it, it's like, where do we go from there exactly? Like, what was the point of that? Like, I don't really. No. Tony variant, like, what purpose does that serve? I mean, you could logic, like, oh, well, maybe he's a Tony variant that, like, was supposed to become Tony Stark, but Reed Richards stole his thunder and now he's evil. It's like, no, just go with classic Doom. It's so much easier. And it's cooler, too. It's way cooler. I don't want to see Doom in Iron Man armor, but anyway. AI leaks. Um, Nah. The only one I've seen that's kind of amusing is like Star Lord and Vision hanging out on a couch. That's kind of funny. Um, Doom team ups. Doom does not team up with people. Like, let's be real. He does manipulate people, but team ups, no. Especially the thing that I'm seeing a lot, which is really just concerning. If it is true, I'd hate to think it's true, but if it is true, that's really just ugh. Like Doom being romantically involved with the Scarlet Witch, like yuck. It's just nothing against the actors pairing or whatever. It's just like the characters. Thinking about the characters, that just is so God. like, I think the most fun I've had with Scarlet Witch, it was probably in like the Doctor Strange 2 movie. Like just to see her like, take on all these other dudes and stuff, just like destroying stuff. That was cool. But like now now they're just a couple. Oh, it's just a Marvel couple. It's like, oh, I know that, I'm saying that, I'm not really elaborating, but it's just so lame. It just takes away from the characters, I think. Um Anyway. Maskless Doom. No, no, no. Maybe when we get to Secret Wars, because that makes sense. Like, he repairs his face or whatever. But even then, no. The whole point of Doctor Doom is the mask. That's like a big part of the character. Like, I'm so sick of seeing these maskless Doom edits. It's not that I hate Robert Downey Jr.'s face. I think he's actually quite pleasant to look at. I just maskless Doom. That is no lack of imagination there. God. Next, Franklin Richards. I don't think that that's happening at all. Fantastic Four First Steps. That might be the name First Steps, and maybe she does have Franklin as a kid. But these rumors of her casting a 13-year-old boy for Secret Wars and Doomsday. It's like no, no, no. Like that's just way too much. And we'll get into like narrative dissonance later on with how that just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Um, at least for me, it's too much. You have I think like right now you have 30 characters or something like that, just a bunch of heroes, and then you got Doom. It's like, you know, they're probably going to take a note out of Infinity War and focus on Doom because that's who we're trying to build up in Doomsday, of course. We're not really like just to make it all about Franklin or Spider-Man or like all these. It's like you can tell all this stuff is kind of nonsense because it's like they keep bringing up like, oh, the Council of Reeds and then Franklin Richards, but Spider-Man, and then but what about Deadpool? And it's like you can only have so many factors bouncing around. Like, oh, but Loki, and it's like, oh, it's too much. It's just too much. It's too much. Um, yeah. Anyway, uh, I try not to be negative as best as possible. I'm just, taking rumors as news really irks me. But anyway, concept art, anything with Doctor Doom, like being God Doom or like Emperor Doom, it's like that's probably reserved for Secret Wars. But moreover, it's called concept art for a reason. It's probably just an idea. It's likely to not happen. Recastings, not sure about that. I think that they're saving that for after Secret Wars. Secret Wars, they're probably going to reboot the MCU and they might do some recastings, but any recasting rumors right now, I think are very untrue. I hope that the actors who are like applying for stuff and trying to get roles, I hope they succeed because I mean, it's just they're trying their best, trying to make a career. Why would I hope against any of that? Um, Hydra Doom, there was a a rumor that Doctor Doom is actually like in the upper echelon of hierarchy or something, and he's teaming up with Hydra to. Nah, that doesn't make any sense. Doctor Doom hates Hydra. Like, you know that, right? Does not like the Red Skull or anything having to do with the Red Skull. That would just be some. That's just some trash heap rumor right there, I think. Soul Doom, there was a theory I saw where Doctor Doom was actually in Tony Stark's body the entire time, and he uses the Soul Stone at the end of Endgame to switch bodies at the last second. And that's the twist. And it's like, oh, like you can't seriously feed that to a general audience and expect them to like that, right? I know I say that and it sounds really mean, but like, come on now. Like that's a load of barnacles. And then filming start. I think that they have actually been filming this movie for much longer than they have put out. I think at time of recording, the last video for anyone who saw that, I said like 2 weeks ago. It must have been like 3 weeks ago to a month now. They said they started filming, or maybe it was in production. I don't know. I'm not sure. The thing that I saw was that it started filming, but I guess you can never really trust the internet nowadays. Production does take long. It's a year out from releasing. It could be. I think that they're lying. I don't know. I feel like this movie has been either filming or in production for a lot longer than they are putting on. That is just me, but we'll see. You know. Anyway, either they have a system in place, they've got all hands on deck, or this is going to be a rough ride. But I'm hopeful because I really like Doctor Doom. So, speculation. This is my personal speculation on this stuff here. So these ancient relics from like Doctor Strange, the little sling ring or whatever, the the bangles from Miss Marvel, and then the 10 rings from Shang-Chi. I think all of these are actually used by Kang the Conqueror, or they were either created or they were used by Kang the Conqueror, and they are like a power source or like used as a beacon. They're just technology that he's made. But there's that, and then I think it's kind of flip-flopping right now because that's what happens before the movies. But anyway, I think that personally, Reed Richards is not from the universe that is shown in the movie trailers. I think that he is actually originally from the 616 universe. More on top of that, I think that Doctor Doom is also from the 616 universe, and they've just been there. Like Doctor Doom's been there, but Reed got sent away. We'll get into that. So next, heroes and teams not in the movie. So uh, first things first. I don't think any of these guys are going to be in the movie. Here, real quick. The only one I really see kind of having any purpose in here is probably America Chavez, because she's got that interdimensional power that Doctor Strange was chasing in like Doctor Strange 2. The rest of these guys, like maybe a cameo, but they don't really have any narrative purpose. I really think, like I said, butchering of character before. I just think it doesn't really like it's out of place, and to shove them in the movie would do just a major blow, I think, to their character. Because it's just like you're shoving them in with all these other characters, and like you know, what's going to happen? They're not really going to get any development. Because, I mean, the characters that we want to see, like, I mean, this is common consensus. We want to see Wolverine. We want to see Iron Man, we want to see Captain America. Everybody wants to see Spider-Man. I don't think he's going to be in the movie. But, like, there's, like, the big ones, and then there's these guys, and, like, you know, they need time to develop more, to be honest. Like, we have not seen any of this. And like Patriot doesn't even exist. So to run them down, Miss Marvel and Kate Bishop, um, they're busy building a team right now. It just doesn't make any sense to throw them into this, you know? Like, there's that whole rumor of, oh, Sam Wilson's assembling a team off screen. It's like, one, that's a rumor. Two, like, we've seen more of him in, like, the mainline universe. These are from TV shows. It's not a diss to their character, but, like, it's one thing when you're an Avenger, and it's one thing when you're assembling a team. They've got their motivations right now, and it is not set on really saving the world. It's just forming a team, and I think they know their place. They're all relatively young people. So yeah, Kate Bishop, Miss Marvel, they're doing that. Patriot hasn't even been introduced yet. He doesn't exist yet. So people saying like, "Oh, we're gonna see him in Secret Wars and Doomsday." It's like, no, no. Scar. Most you've seen of him is in an AI edit where he's on like a Secret Wars planet, but it's like, he doesn't have anything. To be honest, I don't know who plays him. I hope that, they get their chance to shine. Maybe they'll do an MCU Agents of Smash, but I don't know. Um, I don't think he's going to show up in Doomsday. I don't really think he has a whole lot of purpose, unfortunately. Same thing with stature, Wiccan, and speed. They kind of, I don't know about speed, but like I just don't think they really have a whole lot of staying power right now. They need more time in the oven, to be quite honest. Next group of dudes, I called these guys the street people because they're from the streets. City, street level heroes. I don't think they're really going to have a place in Doomsday. It kind of has something to do with power scaling, but the main thing again is narrative, like dissonance. It's just a disconnect. It's like, Luke Cage and Iron Fist. You really going to shove them in there? No, they're probably not going to be in there. Jessica Jones? No. Echo? No. Daredevil and Punisher? Like, it doesn't really go with the tone of their character at all. Like Punisher is a murdering monster. Like he wants to like chase like just despicable people, but he is like in this dark mindset, Like the whole balance between Daredevil and Punisher is Daredevil's like, actually, if you kill a killer, the number remains the same. And Punisher's like, well, if you kill more than one killer, then no, the number doesn't stay the same. It's like, that's like their whole thing. So to shove them in Secret Wars and be like Daredevil's like, nah, we gotta take on Doom. I got my batons and my echolocation or whatever, my radar sense. And Punisher's like, yeah, I got my guns, and this Doom guy seems like a pretty bad dude. Let me chase him with my guns. It's like, it's kind of like, oh, and I like those characters a whole lot. I really like their dynamic. I know I made it seem like I don't really like Daredevil. I like both of them, trust me. But like to put him in Doomsday and Secret Wars, like, come on, man. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Like, and right now Daredevil's trying to build a team. He's not really like same thing with Miss Marvel and Kate Bishop. He's trying to build a team right now to like get one on Kingpin. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. They've got their own problems to worry about. They've got, agency in their respective city. Spider-Man, this is the big one. You know, Spider-Man 4 comes out after Doomsday, and right now, it makes sense. Everybody's saying like, "Oh, well, I think Spider-Man 4 will take place after Doomsday." It's like, guys, okay, just a second, but we've seen this happen before. We saw Ant-Man and the Wasp, and we saw Captain Marvel. It's like those were both movies that were sandwiched between Avengers movies, if I remember correctly. They were sort of interim movies. You know, the stuff that happened in them had nothing to do with the Avengers movies, like themselves. They just had those end credit teasers, or like they were referenced by an end credit teaser from a previous movie. So like, Nick Fury turns into dust and he calls Captain Marvel, and then the Captain Marvel movie happens, and it's like, yeah, that takes place in like the 80s, I think, and then like um, the Ant-Man and the Wasp movie, like nothing in that movie has anything to do with what's going on in Avengers Infinity War. And then the end credit teaser happens, like, oh no, they got turned into dust. Oh crap. So Spider-Man 4, I think what's going to happen in that movie is like, well, Spider-Man's doing his thing. Maybe he's figuring out his life after he got his identity erased because nobody knows who Peter Parker is anymore. So, he's making it work. And then, uh-oh, Secret Wars. Oh no. Like, I don't think he's going to be in Doomsday. Like, doesn't make any sense. And another thing, people keep wanting to put him on an Avengers team. That's not how he rolls. Like, if you're a Spider-Man fan, bro, you know that's not how he rolls. Maybe they'll keep building up his character and put him on a team eventually, but for the most part, like, that's not how he rolls. Like, maybe it happened when they did the new Avengers that one time, but like that's not how he rolls. He's flying solo. He's got his own problems, and I mean that's a part of his character. They already set that up in Homecoming, or not Homecoming. Wait, yeah, Homecoming. Because at the end, that's when he tells Tony, like, nah, I want to be a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Maybe he went up into space in Infinity War, but like, no, no, he needs to be in his city doing his thing. So, no. Next, none of these guys. None of these guys, I don't think, are going to be in either movie, to be honest. Um, I think that one, Moon Knight. First, he needs more time to cook in the oven. I love Oscar Isaac in the Moon Knight show. I actually, I had fun in that show. The ending was kind of like, but like he's right now he's a crazy serial killer taxi driver man. Like he doesn't really have any place to be in Doomsday, and after that Secret Wars, I'm not sure about that. Blade, Blade is a toss up. We don't know if he even exists. I really like that actor. I really want him to play Blade. He seems like he'd do a really good job at Blade. But like, you know, if they put a Blade in Secret Wars, it might be Wesley Snipes. But I don't even know if they're going to put a Blade in these Avengers movies. It's just a toss up right now. And Black Knight, he was in that end credit teaser in the Eternals. But same thing with him. Like, why shove him in with all these other guys who we've got to do something with? It just doesn't make any sense. It's just too much. You'll keep hearing me say that a lot. But anyway. Now, heroes and teams in the movie. Now, I had to change one of the names here because it was a spoiler. There was a slide where I did change the name, so I don't even know why I'm mentioning that. But some of these are confirmed, some of these are not confirmed. So confirmed, we have the Wakandans, all the Thunderbolts, and then the Avengers. There's like one or two names that are in there, I think, that are or like several, but confirmed, and then there's some that I'm speculating. All the Fantastic Four, of course. Doctor Strange has not been confirmed, but get into why I think he's in here. And then the Guardians. The Guardians, they are not confirmed at all, but I think that they will show up, and so here we go. So I think the Wakandans will be joined by Namor. He had his big, dumb, idiot Namor moment in the Black Panther 2 movie. It's very traditional to his character. But I think this time he is going to be teaming up with the Wakandans and sided with the heroes. If he sides with the villains, I do not think he's going to last that long. It's a shame. Like, what I mean is, I think if he's sided with the villains or he wants to, whatever, I think he's probably just going to get killed off and tossed to the wayside like plenty of other Marvel villains, which stinks because he's Namor. He's pretty classic. The Avengers, so obviously Sam, Cap, and Falcon Joaquin, I think that they're going to be on that team. And I think that this is the lineup we're going for. I think Ant-Man's going to be there. I think Shuri Black Panther's going to be on that team. Thor and Shang-Chi. And then those two at the bottom, I put asterisks next to those names because Wonder Man show hasn't even come out yet. But if he were on a team, I would think it would be on this one. If he's not on the Avengers team, I don't think he's going to be in the movie at all. And then Captain Marvel, I think that she's probably going to be an interim member. Like she's going to be doing other stuff, but she probably will be on this team just because she's such a heavy hitter and she can really just get anywhere super fast. And so then obviously Fantastic Four. Doctor Strange, I didn't put it in here, but I think he will be joined by Clea. They will be doing something. And then the Guardians, I don't know what the makeup will be, but I think that it will most definitely be led by Rocket Raccoon. Maybe maybe Star Lord will reunite with them, but I think that I don't know. I don't know. I think that they're going to do something with him eventually, but I don't know. Probably just Rocket for now. Anyway. Then of course the X-Men. I think that, they've confirmed some of the old Fox X-Men. I think that, Hugh Jackman will join them and maybe Deadpool will kind of tag along, but for right now, I think that it's probably just Hugh Jackman and it'll be the OG X-Men. Maybe it won't even be Hugh Jackman, I don't know, but love to see him and all the X-Men in costumes that look more close to like not totally, classic, but classic color schemes, like bright stuff like what he wore in Deadpool Wolverine. That'd be cool. That'd be cool. Come on, man. Anyway, I think that they will all be operating out of these locations. Got the Avengers compound, Wakanda, New Avengers Tower, Fantastic Four Baxter Building, Guardians, Doctor Strange, X-Men. These are kind of just ideas that I threw in. But next, this is a sort of special team that I think will be made up of, first it's going to be led by Nick Fury, and they will be in the Saber space station above the Earth. I think that this stuff will kind of kick off the movie, and this will kind of be the main place we focus on. But these are the people I think that are going to be with him. I think that, Smart Hulk will be up there. War Machine, Captain Marvel will kind of be like, zooming up there and back down or something. Hank Pym, just all the smart people. Vision and Ironheart are kind of a toss-up because, we don't really know. Unfortunately, they've kind of just been, I think, cast to the wayside. Don't really know what they're doing. Love to see them. Love to see him, do something great. Write him in there, make him cool or whatever. But right now, it's kind of a toss-up. And then the Eternals and Photon might show up. I feel like Photon probably is very, very likely because she's in that Fox universe they showed at the end of the Marvels, Captain Marvel 2. The Eternals, kind of has something to do with what I think is going to happen. But anyway. Yeah, he'll be up there, and I think that in order to avoid spoilers, I'll just say that Nick Fury sees a certain ship enter the Earth's atmosphere, and he's like, Avengers assemble, we gotta figure out what's going on here. And then Nick Fury will also start to see some sort of cosmic threats approaching, and he'll be like, alright, we need all hands on deck, we'll try and address all the world's problems, but I'm Nick Fury. I'm the best one to organize this sort of stuff. So, surprise appearances. This is pretty short and sweet. I think that these two will show up at some point. Less likely to show up is probably Iron Man. But if you had all the main dudes that everybody likes in this movie, as many as possible that makes sense, I feel like they would probably figure out a way to get these two to show up, and Captain America. But as for for where they come from, I feel like Captain America will be still 616 Captain America. I feel like he will either be I feel like he will be de-aged mainly. I don't think he'll be from another time or whatever. I think he will be de-aged. There's a chance that he might show up and be like, yeah, I was dropping off the stones from Endgame and I decided to fast forward to the future or whatever to save the future. But it's like, nah. I feel like he'll just be the old Steve but de-aged. We already had that as a criticism from that Endgame movie that kind of went against the logic of the time travel. I think everybody just kind of like gave up and was like, oh well, it was still a cool movie, so who cares if it didn't really, follow its own logic. Or those people that are trying to like come up with some sort of postulation on how it actually works. It's like, nah, it's a little bit of an error, I think. But my theory actually fixes that. Anyway, unlikely cameos. I don't think Tom Cruise, Superior Iron Man, is going to show up, even though it sounds pretty cool. Don't think he's going to be in here. Any of the Sony characters, no. Like, not in Doomsday. I want to see Toby and Andrew just as much as everybody else, trust me, but not in Doomsday. It doesn't make any sense. Like, that just really does not make any sense. People are getting Secret Wars and Doomsday mixed up, I think. um, any of these X-Men. I really want to see if they ever recasted them. Michael Fassbender and also the guy who plays Quicksilver. I'm sorry, I don't remember. I don't remember all these actors' names. But they were pretty good in that movie. The rest of them, sorry, didn't really like, those movies. Just being quite honest. I like Days of Future Past. Maybe First Class, but you know, eh. Uh, I don't think they're gonna show up in Doomsday or Secret Wars. I think that these guys are kind of, unfortunately, being sort of brushed under the rug. Like nothing gets these actors. Just think that they're gonna move on. And then the Council of Reeds. I really don't think that that's gonna happen. That's along the lines of Franklin Richards again. It's just so. Let me get on a little bit of a tirade here. This is such a just a weird. It's like such a stunted get out of jail free card because the whole Council of Reeds is like, we are here to make decisions that are the best for the multiverses and universes that we like witness. And so, of course, it's like, well, can you help ours? And then they'll be like, well, that would cause an incursion, so we would have to eventually erase you unless we could figure out a way to counterbalance that. It's like, for everything to hinge on this council of old dudes that are just apathetic Reed Richards. It's like, that would, gonna make me, People talk about narrative dissonance to me, and they're like, oh, well, or like people mention all this stuff, and it's like, when do, like, that's just too much. One, it's too much, but also it's just, it takes away from the characters that are in the movie. Way too much, way too much, way too much. And like people saying like, oh, Illuminati's gonna show up. We're setting up the Illuminati. I honestly, this is just me. I think the Illuminati's kind of cool. They never succeed, but I think that's the point. I think that we're done with Illuminati personally. Think that we're done. Maybe Doctor Strange sets it up in Doctor Strange 3, but like we already saw them totally fail in Doctor Strange 2. So why would they do that again? Because ultimately, like, they're gonna disassemble that team, at some point. I just toss up. Don't really like those concepts when they play out in stuff like this. Just, ugh. Never really gonna last that long. Anyway, so to get into the main plot of the movie, what I think's gonna happen, going off of like the whole thing with Nick Fury, I think that people are gonna show up from space, and that'll be like a big problem. Like he'll be like, oh no, everybody assemble. The like one particular group that saw the spaceship will probably be the first ones to show up, and then there might be some dumb, funny Marvel joke where, like, you know, I give up. I'll just spoil it. But The new Avengers, the Thunderbolts, will have seen the Fantastic Four ship. They will be the first ones to intercept it because they are seen as like the prime Avengers team, and then Sam Wilson with his his small squad will show up. They'll have like a debate about who gets the Avengers title and whether the lawsuit is valid or not or something. And then they'll meet with the Fantastic Four, and then after that they will be summoned by Nick Fury, because Nick Fury's seeing some stuff. But anyway, I think that this is the stuff that they will be fighting in this movie. Now, some of these might not make sense. Some of these are actually native to 616, but anyway, I'll just run down the list here. So, first of all, that grayed out image of Thanos, I think that this is where we get into incursions here. If you don't know what an incursion is, basically it is when one universe acts on another universe to the point where both of them start to attract each other and eventually collide and destroy themselves or collapse on themselves. So basically, in this case, from the like remember in Endgame, they go to like 2014, like this Thanos, like the Endgame Thanos' universe. Um, that Thanos does not exist in that timeline anymore. That is a big branch. Like for the rest of the stones, you could argue like, oh well, they might have started a branch when they talked to the Ancient One or whatever, because the Ancient One didn't really seem like she wanted to give Doctor Strange the stone anymore. But like this is a most concrete, definite thing that happened. Thanos doesn't exist in that universe anymore. So either another threat or something, who's to say what happens in there, but I think because they indirectly acted upon that universe by killing one of its inhabitants, um, that will be causing an incursion because that universe will be attracted to, the 616 one. And then Kang, I don't feel like he's done quite yet. Of course, he got majorly disrespected in Quantumania because he got beaten by a bunch of ants. Um, but I think he is going to come back, probably recasted. Um, but yeah, that's just me. He's kind of the stretchiest part of my theory, to be honest. There's some stuff that I get into that's kind of like, might happen, might not happen. I think it just looked kind of cool, to be quite honest. Then we got Baron Mordo from the Illuminati universe. I think that he's going to come back, and he is going to be allied with this like 616 universe's Dormammu. Either that, or they're going to make Dormammu some sort of omniversal guy, but it's probably just 616 Dormammu he's going to be talking to. And then Arishem and Galactus. I think that Arishem is just going to be sort of like a side quest. He's going to be like while all this is happening, he's going to be like, well, I want to destroy the Earth anyway. I just want to blow it up. And then Galactus, I think that Galactus will actually be native to Reed Richards, like the universe that he's currently in. I think that Reed Richards is from 616, and this Galactus is from that alternate like place, but he is going to come back with Reed Richards. So, but yeah. Anyway, to get into how this will play out, first, I think Doctor Strange, who will be joined by Clea, will kind of show up to the Avengers, and they'll be like, "Oh, hi, haven't seen you in a while. You don't really talk to us." And he's like, "Yeah, so I'm here to tell you that I'm really, really busy, so I can't really help this time because I'm trying to stop incursions from happening." And they're going to be like, "Oh, what are those?" And he's going to explain to them, "Well, yeah, basically, um, you know, he'll just say everything that I just said, but he'll also say that the only way to stop them is by completely erasing them." And all the Avengers will be like, "Wait, so you're just going around erasing universes?" And he'll be like, "Yeah." And they'll be like, "Why? That's horrible. You're killing so many people." And he's like, "Yeah, well, it's either both get destroyed or one stays alive." And they're all like, "Okay, then I guess." Jeez, that's heavy. So he's going to work with Clea to erase that one like Endgame universe, but then he is going to come into contact with Baron Mordo from the Illuminati universe with Dormammu, And I think that Baron Mordo will have found some way to kind of pull off that magic that Wanda did in like the Doctor Strange 2 movie and commune with this Dormammu and then try to convince him to like destroy Doctor Strange for what he's doing and maybe help him take over like their universe. But then, Doctor Strange will remind Dormammu of how this actually works. Like if, Baron Mordo's universe is already collapsing. If he stops Doctor Strange, then both universes will most likely be destroyed. So Dormammu will hear that and be like, "Oh, well, this guy just lied to me then." And then Dormammu and Doctor Strange will just team up to blow up what's left of that Illuminati universe. And ba-bam, wa-bam, we got those three checked off. Big threats, collapsing universe, angry man teams up with interdimensional being to blow up universe. They just get taken care of. Wa-bam. Next, we got this team here. Nick Fury, the Guardians, and the Fantastic Four. So, first thing that'll happen will probably be like, "Hey, your name is Reed Richards." And he's like, "Yep, yes, sir, I am." And he'll be like, "Yeah, so you brought this one guy in, and he's about to go toe to toe with this other dude or something. Like they're the same sort of guy, and they both want to destroy the Earth. And you brought one here, and none of us have the resources to take care of these guys. So you're gonna explain to me how you're gonna solve this problem, Mr. Science Guy?" And the Guardians, of course they'll be there because Nick Fury probably asked them to help since they're the space dudes. And Rocket will be like, "Yeah, we can't really kill one of those things because they're way too tough." So this will be sort of a proof of how smart Reed is. This will be kind of cool, I think. But, this is all just my idea. I thought it was just really cool, though. But anyway, Reed will suggest, "Hey, wait a minute. So we did bring him through, and he is a hungry guy. And his existence here is kind of a threat to both universes since he could potentially cause an incursion. Since, he's here and he wants to make a change in this universe. So, what if instead of, him destroying the Earth and the other guy, Erishim, destroying the Earth, what if we convince Galactus to consume energy from this universe to the point where he does make a significant change without harming the Earth, but it also makes it so that, the universal order or whatever recognizes him as being native to this current plane of existence that we are on." And he will say, "What if Galactus digests Erishim's cosmic essence and replaces him as the cosmic being in this universe?" And then, they'll be like, "Oh, well, we're doomed if we don't." Ha, get it? Doomed? Anyway. Galactus will consume Erishim's energy. Wabam, he's gone, and whoops, well, let's check the incursion radar. It's not happening anymore. We save the universe. And this will be like, "Whoa, Reed, you're actually pretty smart. We could use a guy like you here." And he's like, "Actually, I'm from this universe, it's a long story." So, and they're like, "Well, welcome home," But, yep, that takes care of that. Galactus isn't dead, but at least he's not causing an incursion. They only got one giant cosmic entity to be afraid of now. But Erishim is. Erishim is gone. No more Erishim. Maybe he releases some Eternals, but the only real major threat right now is Galactus and Kang is doing his thing on Earth. He just wants to myrtleize the Avengers because of the embarrassment he got in Ant-Man 3. Either that or this is a Kang that finally murdered all of the other Kangs, exterminated them, from the Council of Kangs, because I don't really... blah, blah. But, yeah, this is the stretchiest part of the theory. We have arrived. this is what the ground people will be doing, because we focused enough on the cosmic stuff. Let's focus on some of this ground battle stuff, man. It's cool. So I think Kang will come into contact with these guys. He can fight them by, technically fight them on his own, but because of that embarrassment, we gotta, force a team up here. So I think Kang is gonna summon some villains. These are just some ideas I had, but he's gonna probably summon them either from different pockets of their universe, so he will have like recruited them in secret or something, in order to bolster or like build up a team here. So I think the first one is Red Skull. I kind of just put him in here. I think that he looks really intimidating, and I love the Red Skull. Like it's a classic look. Love to see him love to see the heroes beat him up, but it's just cool to see him go toe to toe. But yeah, like I feel like it'd just be kind of cool to see him fight. It's not really based on anything, to be quite honest. But then Ultron, I feel like he might, recruit Ultron again. I like James Spader, but maybe this time, make him a total emotionless killing machine that just makes murder drones, and he's just like like that character has been screwed over indefinitely in my opinion. He's just, yeah. Maybe I'll make a video later and get into that, but yeah. I feel like he might show up, but definitely I feel like the most definite one, this is how the X-Men are put in the movie, is Kang will actually use the ancient relics that he had before to specifically pull out the Fox X-Men from that universe. And Photon might be with him, but he will pull them out, and he will convince them, oh no, the Avengers are going to cause an incursion. Like they're planning on destroying your universe eventually. And if you don't fight them, you're going to die. And the X-Men will be like, oh, that's not good. And that's how you get the X-Men versus Avengers scene. And so, yeah, X-Men Evil, how? Yeah, I just explained. But, yeah, I'll convince them that everything is doomed if they don't beat up the Avengers. And of course, this is how they'll go toe to toe there. And then, maybe this is the part where we get Captain America and Iron Man, so we can just complete that X-Men versus Avengers spread right there. People are starting to unite, but eventually the X-Men will be convinced otherwise, because everybody who's got a basic education on what an incursion now will probably explain to them, like, hey, yeah, so basically you're from another universe, right? We don't actually intend to erase it. In fact, we want to save it if we can. We're not really like Doctor Strange or any of these other crazy guys. But, if you kill anyone here, you might cause an incursion. And if we kill you, then we might cause an incursion. So how about we don't kill each other? Alright? And then the X-Men will be like, okay, that sounds good. And they'll join sides. They'll fight for maybe a bit. We'll get to see some cool stuff, but then someone will be like, if we keep fighting, we're both gonna die. That's not cool. So, but yeah, stretchy is part of the theory, but I think the X-Men part might be true. But yeah, then it'll just be them versus Kang. And here we go with the chart again. It's just Kang and Galactus. Kang will be like, hey, Galactus, want to help me just blow up the Earth? Because, now I really can't do it on my own. Got one of my teams turned against me. And Galactus will be like, nah, I'm pretty full, dude. I gotta go sit down and watch Dexter or something to get through this. This is this is too much. Oh no. So Kang will be like, oh well, guess I really messed up here, 'cause I'm the only one left. Dang, this isn't good. And everybody will be like, yeah, so we're gonna wreck your face, Kang. We're gonna blow you up. And then, it's looking like Kang is cornered, but then all of a sudden, Dr. Doom shows up. Uh-oh. Oh no, I think this picture is from Probably from Ultimate Alliance, unless this is some statue or cosplay. I don't know. Yeah, I just picked it because this is like cool Doom design. I don't like Iron Man Doom, but he shows up, kills Kang. Everybody's like, "What the heck? What's going on here?" And then he explains, "I am Doctor Doom. This is what I've been doing." So, so like first, everybody meets up and assembles. That's like the first act for people wondering about that. Second part is just all the fighting, all the traveling around and fighting. Um, People talk about like character arcs and stuff. I think that logically, they want to focus on building up Doom as a villain. This will kind of play out like Infinity War Endgame, where you get some intimate moments with the characters, but really it's just they're fighting these evil forces. Because let's be honest, we got to get down to business here. This is a big threat. But anyway, Doctor Doom will explain that he has been watching this stuff in the background, and he is, he's ready to enact his revenge or his giant evil plan. So, a little intro. Doctor Doom, I think, has actually been in 616 this whole time, and he was the one who sent the Fantastic Four to that alternate dimension. He is not a Tony variant. He is Victor Von Doom through and through. Um, so, first thing, yeah, Doctor Doom hates Reed Richards. And in general, he hates smart people, so he also hates Tony Stark. Doctor Doom, again, he's been in the universe this whole time, and what I think he did is, like, we'll get into that, but I'll just say, like, he's been around, he's been watching them forever. He's actually, I think that they're going to do, like, maybe make him older than Reed, technically, because, I don't know, like, time passes different in the universe, whatever. But Doom has just been plotting, planning, scheming, and so he wants to get rid of these two, because he wants revenge on Reed more than anything, but he needs to get rid of Tony, so he's gonna, do something to both of them, but mainly he just wants to take his revenge on Reed. So he's kind of scheming and waiting in the background, and this is probably before any of the major superhero stuff happens, but he's just waiting. He's just trying to scheme. And then all of a sudden, wha-bam! Giant alien invasion occurs. Doctor Doom gets to see not only the alien invasion, but also the Avengers who team up to stop it. And he is just amazed. He is like, holy crap. Like, this might have happened at some point, maybe, like aliens and whatever, but he's just thinking, like, geez Louise, like, this is some heavy stuff, He starts to think, like, well, this is a pretty unpredictable thing that occurred. I think I need to figure out a way to predetermine these sort of events if I really want to take my revenge on Reed Richards. Because, like, this is just way too much. Like, too much to keep track of. It's just a lot. Like, how am I going to do my Doomly things if I don't figure out a way to handle this sort of stuff? So he sits and he thinks, and he's like, well, I guess I can take a stab at trying to gain intel on the Avengers, because, I obviously got to get rid of those guys in order to take over the world and get my revenge on Reed Richards, because that's how the world should be. I'm Doctor Doom. So he starts scanning, and then he finds stuff out about Captain America, and he's like, hey, wait a minute. This is a little odd. This is a little strange, because why are there two Captain Americas that exist at the same time? You might be thinking, like, well, that only happened after Endgame. I think that old Steve has actually existed at the same time as this 616 Steve, because if they didn't, then I think an incursion would have happened by now. So I think they're actually both just, like, old Steve's just kind of laying low, so to speak, in order to prevent an incursion. I don't know. He doesn't know that, but this is where we get into, like, Doctor Doom's like, oh, this is weird. Doctor Doom's like, wait a minute. Because, like, these two are the exact same guy. They're from this universe. So how can they both exist at the same time? Doom's like, "Oh, wait a minute. I think I studied this in college." You know, it can happen because maybe someone from the future, perhaps an alternate Doctor Doom, because I'm the only one who I think knows about this right now. Maybe an alternate Doctor Doom took this Steve at a certain point in time and put him back into our universe to prevent an incursion. It's a little complicated, I know, but if you remember back to Endgame, that was a common criticism of that movie because they went to alternate dimensions timelines in order to grab those stones. They were all running along the same line, but they did that because their stones were destroyed so that they could, redo the Infinity Gauntlet or whatever. And those changes that they made didn't affect their timeline because they were technically in alternate dimensions, alternate universes. Um, so if Steve from 616 had went to stay in any of those universes, well then you got two Steves and one of them's not from 616. So this kind of addresses that whole thing where it's like, well, if we take that 616 Steve back out from that like whole, oh, he went with Peggy but he's actually still in this universe somehow. Maybe somebody from the future put him back. Right now, all Doctor Doom knows is like, oh well, there's two Steves and that can't happen without an incursion happening, but nothing has happened. So, what's going on? Doom just gets it into his head like, well, I should just watch this guy because this is really some fishy stuff right here. So he begins heavy surveillance on all the Avengers just to be safe. Of course, Avengers 1 happens. This is like the whole thing that I think kicks it off for Doom. Like he was maybe watching them before, but I think that he's especially watching them now. After everything he knows. Now, step 1. The smart people. He needs to get rid of the smart people. So, he knows about this whole Captain America time thing now. And he knows that it's really, really like scary to think about that time travel and incursions could possibly exist. Two Steves existing at the same time is really, really weird. So, in order to like learn more and just kind of work with it, he decides to take a risk with this whole time travel, sort of stuff, and he decides to like get rid of one of these smart people. Well, he doesn't want to get rid of Tony because everybody knows Tony. At this point, Reed Richards doesn't have his powers, and nobody really, he's a smart guy, but everybody's kind of focused on the Avengers stuff right now. So, for right now, he decides to take a little bit of a risk. He decides to send Reed to an alternate universe that contains that Galactus guy. We'll get back to that later, but for right now, he just sends him to an alternate universe so that he doesn't, like Doctor Doom is then responsible for their whole space incident, but he decides to send him away. And he could do that either through just science or through his like knowledge of maybe the multiversal relics, but sends these guys away so he can focus on Steve Rogers. This is a bit of a risk because Reed may cause an incursion, but Doctor Doom does not care because either way, Reed might die. That's really like Doom just wants revenge, so sends him away. So now he's got Tony Stark, and of course, well, don't just get into this. Tony Stark, he can't really send away with like the whole thing, so he just waits and watches him. But he knows about Thanos and his whole deal. Because he knows about Thanos because Thanos is just a major cosmic threat. Doctor Doom's in the know. You got to be in the know to know. So he just knows that Thanos is trying to do his whole thing with the stones, and Tony Stark is a really idealistic guy who wants to save the world no matter what the cost is. So that's why he couldn't send him to an alternate universe, because Tony would most likely start an incursion inadvertently by causing certain actions or creating certain situations. So Doctor Doom, with knowledge of this incursion, timey-wimey stuff, he decides to take another bold and risky move. Because, I mean, now it's kind of, Reed's in another universe. That could potentially cause an incursion. And Thanos is coming to wreak havoc. He has knowledge of, like, how to time travel at this point. Or, like, travel through dimensions. He decides to give that information to Tony Stark. Because he logics in his head, well, if I get snapped or blipped, I obviously can't do anything. And, maybe if I give it to him, it's kind of a little bit of insurance. Because I will know exactly when and why he will use this. It will be to fix what Thanos does if he succeeds. So, before Thanos, does this whole snappy thing, he puts in like a thing where it like gives the time travel info that he has to Tony so that he can fix it. This is the big twist. Oh, this is what he had to do with Tony the whole time. It's like, no, it's not an alternate Tony. Maybe he gave him the time travel formula. And so then, the time comes. Doom could be gone or he could be alive, but like Doom gives Tony the time travel thing from years prior, and then they use it specifically to stop Thanos, or reverse Thanos's stuff, like his snap. And Doctor Doom's like, he could be gone, he could be there, but they use it. Then they do the snap. Then they have the whole fight with Endgame Thanos. Doctor Doom, if he was alive, just sees this whole thing and he's like, this is really interesting. But if he's snapped, he comes back and he's like, oh, I'm back. All right, what's going on? And then he sees the whole thing with Thanos and Captain America, taking the stones or whatever. And he's like, I keep phrasing back and forth here. He sees him take the stones and he's like, wait a minute. He's doing the thing. Now I can do that thing and prevent incursion from happening. Oh my god. I can, whoa. He's doing the thing. I saw this. This is a big breakthrough for Doom because this proves that he has actually been watching for a purpose this whole time. Oh my god, it's happening. Now I, as the future me, can put this Steve back into our universe to prevent an incursion from happening, but also create a preordained event and cement this universe as like a running one, as one that stays in time. Doctor Doom does all this. He's like, yes, I've confirmed that this is real, sort of. Step 2, now that Doctor Doom knows about incursions, he wants to start trying to test them. So, the first thing he wants to do is he wants to see if he can force an incursion and see what that looks like. So he knows about Doctor Strange, and Doctor Strange at this point is dealing with the effects of incursions. Or he knows that Doctor Strange as a resource could potentially run into conflict with incursions just because of his mystical abilities. I mean, Doctor Doom, he's already, kind of started all this, so it's only a matter of time before someone mystical like Doctor Strange gets involved. Anyway, he sees these universes as a problem here, or at least these things as a problem, because he knows about the Thanos universe, and he knows that there are alternate universes where or alternate beings in those universes that can cause problems. So for example, 2014 Thanos traveled over, and that is causing an incursion right now. That is most certainly starting an incursion, but Doctor Doom wants to see if it's actually a danger and how to address it, so to say. But so he decides to focus specifically on one universe and try it out with that one, that being the Illuminati universe with Baron Mordo. Because of Doom's mystical knowledge, he probably assumes that Doctor Strange or himself can convince Dormammu to erase it if things get too bad, but he decides to focus on that Illuminati universe just because it's fun. Not because he thinks they can stop him, because he's Doctor Doom, he doesn't care. But how he does this, He decides to manipulate Scarlet Witch, who is just in a really vulnerable state after the events of WandaVision and Endgame. You don't even need to watch WandaVision for this to make sense, to be honest. Um, but he decides to manipulate her to like invade that other universe and inadvertently cause an incursion. Because remember, she goes over there and like kills all those dudes, and then like, uh-oh, that's a permanent change in the universe. Technically, that should be causing an incursion because that was intervention from another universe that caused all that. So, Doctor Doom does that, and then of course Doctor Strange has to go like clean that stuff up. So Doctor Doom is just kind of waiting, and he's like, well, yeah, seems like it was a threat if it made Doctor Strange, so busy because he has to deal with all this now. So he's like, well, I just think I just proved an incursion is real. Next thing he does, incursion test 2, he decides to see, so he's proven that an incursion is real. He's confirmed his theory. Now he wants to see, all right, if you're an interdimensional being from another universe, can you exist in another dimension without causing an incursion and while making permanent changes? Like, can you exist and have full autonomy in another universe, essentially? So that's why he sent Reed to that universe with Galactus, because he knows about Galactus, and he specifically wants to bring both of them back. Obviously, Reed to prevent an incursion, but he wants to bring Galactus to test this next part of the theory and create a potential distraction for everybody. So double insurance there. But of course, it's risky because he's a villain. So he wants to see, how that plays out, and Arishem, either Arishem or Galactus would destroy one another. That's his logic in his head. But how does he get them specifically to return to this universe? Well, I think that the end credit teaser at the end of Shang-Chi, that is what that is. I think that Doctor Doom is either Doctor Doom or Kang is using the multiversal relics as beacons for these alternate dimensional beings. This is how they summon them, or how they have bridges to them. I think Doctor Doom attached a beacon to one of these himself, and that is the one that is directing the Fantastic Four and Galactus back to this universe. Because how do you get someone to return to a specific place in the multiverse? Well, maybe you put a beacon on one of these multiversal bridges or something. So, yeah, I think that's what he did in order to get Galactus to return. And boom, all the stuff happens in space. Galactus eats Arishem, and he has now proven, yes, you can make a permanent change in another universe and have full autonomy. If you just consume enough of that universe's energy, you can do it. And, this was some sort of thing I shoved in here about, if maybe he went to the 20th Century Studios, Fox Universe, and messed with the Time Ripper or something. But that's kind of like a half-hatched sort of thing I had in mind. But, yeah. And then step 4, what? Why is all this happening? So Doctor Doom is still talking to the Avengers. He's just explaining his scheme. This is probably, I know this is really long-winded. This video is probably going to be around an hour or something. But Doctor Doom is still yapping. They probably would not explain a lot of his scheme in the movie just for, general audience's patience levels. Either that or they drip feed it throughout the movie. But this point, Doctor Doom is explaining that he has been observing Kang this whole time. You see, Kang was the multiversal emperor at one point in time. He was the most powerful being. Doctor Doom's like, well, how does he fall out of that power and get beaten by a bunch of ants? How does he do this stupid stuff in the background? How does he end up failing? Well, Doctor Doom comes to the conclusion that it's because Kang has so many alternates that they were all fighting for power and trying to get that position. Um, that's a problem. That's just a distraction. It's just Doctor Doom concludes, yeah, well, Kang just seems like a really bad leader if he couldn't figure that out. Doctor Doom's like, well, I could do way better than that. And the Avengers are like, okay, like, dude, you're still yapping. Like, what are you talking about now? Doctor Doom's like, in a minute, I'm just explaining the plan. Doctor Doom goes on to explain, yeah, so Kang had all those alternate variants and stuff, and he just was constantly fighting with them and vying for power. Um, you know, I decided to get my hands dirty and eradicate all of my alternate universal versions that were a threat. So I went through the entire multiverse and culled the entire multiverse of dooms. And how did I do that without causing incursions? Well, I just erased the entire universe that they were into. And everybody's like, dang, that's pretty dark, dude. And he's like, I mean, I had plenty of time to do it because, like, you guys were just messing around and doing dumb stuff this whole time. And then they're like, well, that's not really the point we were trying to make, man. We're just saying you're messed up and sick in the head. And he's like, oh, I was just saying that I'm a pretty hard-working guy, and I know my way around this stuff now. I had all this time. And then they're all like, okay, well, you told us all this, and we're kind of tired of your yapping. So, like, what's stopping us from totally blowing you up? Like, ending you right now? Because we're all here. And Doctor Doom is like, well, the Kang stuff, like, I didn't even get to the juiciest details. And they're like, no, 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 no. Shut up. Like, you're the last threat. We're going to blow you up and it's going to be over. Doctor Doom's going to be like, well, I'd like to see you try. I'd like to see you try. Doctor Doom gets murdered. And everybody's like, yeah, we did it. We saved the day. For sure, right? And then they start to hear laughter coming from Doctor Doom's body, his decapitated body, because they remembered to aim for the head this time. And then they're like, wait a minute. Why is he laughing? It's not actually Doctor Doom, it's one of his Doom bots. And then everything starts to fade. And everybody's like, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Everything's fading to white. And wha-bam. That's the end of the movie. And so, I think that this will be like, they might have an end credit teaser where certain characters wake up in Battle World for Secret Wars, but I think what will have happened is, Doctor Doom explains his whole plan. A big piece of his plan was he goes to destroy Loki or claim his multiversal emperorship and become like God King of the universe and create Battle World. And that will be the thing that he was doing the entire time in Doomsday. I made this theory just talking to a friend while playing some video games. Originally, we were just kind of shooting the ideas off of each other, but I eventually, like, it was finals week and I was stressed out, so I was thinking about other stuff, and I decided to think more on my theory because it was just really like I was just thinking like, how do they logic all this happening in the movie without making it just such a mess? Because I was just seeing so much stuff online that was just saying like, oh, this is gonna happen, this is gonna happen. I'm surprised too, because more of the well-adjusted, I thought, like, comic book reviewers and stuff or historians were saying that like the Inheritors and the Sony Spider-Verse movies were going to come into Doomsday and stuff. And I was just thinking like, that is just god awful. And then people saying like, oh, it's a Tony variant and he's in love with the Scarlet Witch and the Council of Reeds and Franklin Richards will save the day. And I'm just like, oh man, like, oh no. My theory may not be perfect, and I use the word theory loosely because that's not really the correct term. It's just an idea. But I feel like this would just have generally much more controlled and better narrative flow. It's not that it would be more comfortable, because I mean, like, Doom has to win in Doomsday. That's what it has to be. Um, and to just make all these side characters the focus of the movie or something, or like to introduce all these factors that have had nothing to do with what general audiences have been seeing, or at least the people who don't want to lose their minds watching all these TV shows. It's like, I think it's much more reasonable for something like this to occur, where Doom has been scheming this entire time, and like the Fantastic Four, he actually, he sent them away or whatever to study what's been going on. Like, Doom is a schemer. Doom is not like just this strong guy who gets whatever he wants. Doom is a cunning, evil schemer who hates Reed Richards. It's the main thing with this character. Is he hates Reed Richards so much, he is willing to cast away sides of his life. He is he has that classic, villain like thing where it's like, if you took a minute to just focus on yourself, maybe you could do way, way better things for the world. But Doctor Doom's one of those villains where he's just like, I don't care. I really just hate Reed Richards that much. And anyone who associates with him, you're all a victim to my wrath. Like, he's just a villain. You can't like, oh, we gotta think logically about this. Like, oh, now I'm getting on a rant about like, characters and storytelling. It's like, oh, but yeah, this is just a little first video I made. It's probably a little long. I'm hoping to make some shorter stuff in the future, but this was just kind of a little fun thing for me. I don't really care if anybody watches it, but somebody told me to like make this or post this on YouTube, and I was like, you know what? Why not? Gonna have a really boring few years ahead, so with school. But yeah. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope to see you again soon. Bye. Bye.